Today, I'm flying on one of Emirates' exciting multi-sector trips, and this one is even more special than the ones I've done in the past, as I'll be having a layover for the first time ever since moving to Dubai in my home city of Melbourne. I'll be away from Dubai and Zach for a total of 5 days, and with these multi-sector trips being some of the longest duties you can get as Emirates Cabin Crew, I thought I would do something a little bit different for you all, and whether it's the crew food on board the flights, my home-cooked meals, or what I find on my layovers, I want to show you what I actually eat in a week as Emirates Cabin Crew. So there are a few things I need to think about when planning what food I can take on trips like this. Firstly, I pack food for both my flights and my layovers. Although there is dedicated crew food on board, which I will be showing you, I always try to pack my own food because it is healthier and there isn't always a lot of options for me being vegan. I also plan which meals I'll be eating on my layovers and then when I want to eat out. Something else to always keep in mind is the food import laws going into each country. As I will be going to Melbourne, I actually can't bring any of my own food in because if any of you know how strict Australian customs are, there is no special treatment for being Australian or even being cabin crew. So all the food I'm bringing with me now will be for the first 2 flights from Dubai to Singapore and Singapore to Melbourne, and also for the first of the 2 24-hour layovers in Singapore. I am planning on going to the supermarket in Melbourne, so I'm sure I'll be able to make do for my food on the way back. Now, as much as I wish Zach was coming on this trip with me, it just does not make sense for him to be flying around with me on so many flights. But he is driving me to work tonight so I can drink my coffee, but I think it's mostly so we can have even just a little bit more time together before we have to say goodbye.
We had a long night, but it was alright. I took 2 broken blades into a fist fight. She said, give me a reason why I should take it or leave it. Why don't you just give me a reason?
Now, if you've watched any of my Emirates vlogs in the past, you will probably know this pre-flight rundown. But for first timers here, this is our check-in machine. It's kind of like any other job where you have to clock on, but we also have a few important things we need to tick off. Basically saying that we have them with us, like our passport or crew licenses. It also tells us which briefing room we need to go to, and then prints out our crew bag tag for our checked suitcase, which, if you didn't know, is a no-go item, which means if you don't have it, you cannot fly. At my old airline, we used to just take carry-on only with us everywhere, no matter how long we were away for. But at Emirates, it's actually a requirement to have your checked suitcase if you're going on any layover. After the check-in, we go straight to the briefing room where those documents you just ticked off are double-checked physically by the supervisors, along with a few other things like your flat shoes and your waistcoat. And this is where that classic saying comes in, because if you're not early to these briefings, you are late.
And we can swim into the sunrise. We could dance all night.
The flight to Singapore today is on one of Emirates' Boeing 777, and as much as passengers and even myself when I'm flying as a passenger prefer the famous A380, as crew the 777 is the best aircraft to work on, and that's purely because in economy you have less passengers and bigger galleys, so overall a way better experience for you as cabin crew.
We can stay together all night, all night.
Now it's time to show you some of the dedicated crew food we get on board, beginning with a box called the Crew Dry Stores, which is purely filled with snacks. Now this box is only stocked up out of Dubai, so for the first flight you'll have it completely full, but for the flights back you tend to have a lot less. This box also has to be shared with all the crew on board, including the flight crew. Honestly, I don't tend to take too much from this, but I usually try to get at least one of the oat or almond milks so I can have a coffee throughout my flight. Now next, the crew meal cart. There are usually 2 of these carts on board, and as crew you can have something out of any of them. But unlike the crew dry stores, there are dedicated flight crew trays inside and you are not allowed to eat off these. I tend to be pretty quick to dig through the economy crew cart just to check if there's any good vegan options, especially if I haven't packed my food, which will be me on the flights home. Now, the meals will change depending on the time of day the flight is, so today we have breakfast loaded as we land into Singapore early morning. This includes little extra fruits and yogurts, cold dishes like this chia seed muesli, and we always get some kind of juice for breakfast time. We also have hot meals for breakfast like this omelette with chicken sausages, and then we also have dinner loaded as we are taking off in the evening. These meals are all similar to the passenger ones, like this chicken curry. Also, keep in mind, this is all crew food. So as a passenger, you can't be asking for this, just like you wouldn't ask your waiter at a restaurant to eat their lunch. But we do have something else that is on every Emirates flight, and it's actually for passengers. It's another dry stores box. It holds all the tea and coffee bags that are used in the jugs, along with baby food, formula, and a bunch of different biscuits. Keep in mind, these are all only available on request. Now, the last thing I want to show you is actually the 2-minute noodles, or cup noodles as they're called on the menu. Not a lot of people know this because they are listed right at the bottom, but these are available on most flights to and from Asia. So for our whole trip flying in and out of Singapore, you can request these noodles at any time or until they run out. Now, my dinner and kind of breakfast now are these roast vegetables I grabbed from the other crew cart in the front galley, alongside my homemade lentil spaghetti bolognese. I also grabbed a mezza plate from up the front, which is an appetizer in business class, and honestly, I have this a lot as it's so tasty and naturally vegan. Now, the reason I'm eating business class food is if they've already finished that service and there's leftovers, as in the passengers have said no to eating, or there's just extra catering loaded, then any crew can eat it, and no one likes food wastage. The rest of the flight was pretty chill, and we even got given these Turkish delights from a very kind passenger. And yes, I tried every flavor. Now, this was not my first time in Singapore, and I do have another full 24 hours back here after my Melbourne layover tomorrow. Now, for this layover though, I'm gonna take it easy, rest, and enjoy the hotel room. But for me to do that, it means I need to connect to the hotel Wi-Fi, which is where my sponsor, Surfshark VPN, comes in. Because if you didn't know, using shared or free Wi-Fi like ones at hotels come with risks. Basically, anyone connected to these same networks can see everything you're doing on any of your devices. And yes, that means even seeing your passwords as you go to log in to like your social media account or your credit card details when you go to buy something online. So how can you protect yourself? By using Surfshark VPN. A VPN is a virtual private network, and what that means is it creates a secure and private connection for your internet, protecting your data and keeping everything hidden, allowing you to browse the web anonymously and from anywhere. And by anywhere, the cool thing about using a VPN is you're able to change your location virtually to anywhere in the world. So even being in Singapore, where one of my favorite TV shows, The Office US, is not available to watch, I simply changed my location to the UK and all of a sudden it's there. This has to be one of the coolest things about having a VPN, and is also the reason I use it even when I'm not traveling. But on top of this and their protection, they have tons of other extras like the classic antivirus, which means you don't have to worry about accidentally getting a virus on your computer because you downloaded something from a website you didn't even know was dangerous. So in a world where everything is online, you'd be silly not to keep yourself and your data safe while reaping all the extra benefits of Surfshark VPN. Plus, they even have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Now, don't forget to use my link surfshark.com/AmandaK, where you'll get an extra 4 months on top. But now that you know what I do as soon as I get to any hotel room to keep myself safe and set up for my stay, let's get back and ready for my next flight to Melbourne. Now this right here is what's on the menu for passengers today flying from Singapore to Melbourne. But let's take a look at what's on the menu for us as crew. So when it's not breakfast time, you can pretty much guarantee there will be some kind of poke bowl loaded. This is usually the best thing for me if I haven't packed my own food, as a lot are naturally vegan. We also get some hot sides like those roasted veggies I showed you earlier, along with the hot meals that are color coded, which is actually the same for our passenger meals. So blue for fish, yellow for chicken, and green for vegetarian. One of my go-to breakfast meals that I'm preparing right now, and is honestly an all-time favorite of Zach's, are my protein waffles. It's literally just banana, oats, protein powder, and a ton of vanilla and cinnamon mixed with blueberries. I actually used to make them as pancakes, but I discovered a waffle iron cooks them on both sides way better, as they can be a little thick otherwise. Honestly, I love them because I can batch make them like crazy and they freeze really well. Then you just chuck some peanut butter and banana on top, and I think it's a killer breakfast. So this is my coffee routine on board, with the almond milk from our crew dry stores along with the economy coffee dissolved, and that's it. Other crew don't really understand why I prefer the economy coffee over the business class, but there's something about this mix I really like, and the economy coffee gives a crazy kick without making me super tired later in the day. Honestly, I've only just started to work out that coffee can be so different and have so much more to it than just flavor. This might shock you, but I only got into coffee once I started with Emirates. Not even 3 years of living in Melbourne City could turn me, but from that first month flying long haul, oh man did I need it. I used to take pride in not needing coffee, but when you need to give your all for people like this job really requires, if it's what makes you feel like you can give 110%, then who cares? Life is too short to be hard on yourself for starting to drink coffee, and honestly, I now really enjoy the taste of it too. Now, before landing, there are a few things we need to do, and one of these is a stock take of our bar carts. Did you know I actually used to be a bartender, so I've done a similar thing to this many times before Emirates. This is also pretty standard across all airlines, as countries tend to need to know how much alcohol is being brought in.
You say my name, you make it feel like summertime. When you reach out your hand, I find myself again. Electric Wonderland. No, I just can't get enough.
Now, because we're landing at 8:30 p.m, by the time we get to the hotel, it's going to be very late. So I'm having my homemade chickpea curry for dinner now, before things get super busy for landing. As much as flying makes having a regular eating pattern super difficult, I still try and plan things out to make me feel somewhat normal.
You know you feel like magic. You know you feel like magic. You know you feel like magic. Dance in the living room. Can't stop looking at you. The way you're moving, I'm watching all of my dreams come true. Take all my stress away. Clear up my cloudy days. Just me and you and all this music, baby, never change.
My little brother is an absolute gem and picked me up from the crew hotel just to drive me an hour out of the city so we can meet our family and have some good quality time together before taking me right back to the hotel. He always comes through for me, and I hope one day I can return the favors.
Like magic.
Now, there is no way I'm leaving Oz without going to my favorite supermarket, Coles. I also need to get some food for the way back home and some extra goodies to remember my Aussie trip by.
Baby.
Now, there was nothing that could bring me down from such a good layover and seeing some of the most important people in my life, even being assigned as galley operator for the way back to Singapore. Now this is our passenger menu for our flight tonight, with a snack service first and then full breakfast before we land. For us crew though, we have some vegetarian stir fries, which I think will be my dinner, along with eggs for breakfast, heaps of fruit, and some pastries. You might not know this, but when we're outstationed, the catering can be quite different from Dubai's. I actually find it a little exciting to see what we will get for crew food out of each different country. And even looking at this nice orange juice, I knew Oz wouldn't disappoint. Now, before we take off, I want to show you a few things we have to prepare. This is the bag full of amenity kits for economy. These kits are only given out on overnight flights or flights longer than 8 hours, but all crew have a full bag to give out either straight after takeoff or maybe on the ground depending on the assigned workflow. These right here are the kids' toy bags, full of, you guessed it, kids' toys. We also have a special chart to show us what toys to give depending on the kids' age. But honestly, we just let the kids choose what they want because you'd be surprised how many older kids want these plush toys that are actually meant for the babies. Now, as the galley operator, we have to make sure the ovens are on and cooking as soon as we hit cruise. You'd be surprised how stressful this is because there are a lot of hungry people out there. The meals actually need around 35 to 40 minutes to cook, and then this is the time you have to prep everything else. And you might not know this, but we can't actually have the ovens running while we're taking off because everyone is strapped in, and if something happens with the ovens, we wouldn't be able to get to them. So just remember this next time you fly because the crew are working as fast as they can. You also have a little bit more you need to do once the food is cooked, like loading the meals onto the cart before you can finally head out. Now, family time is great, but I am super excited to explore Singapore City and show you what I get up to here. The last time I was here before this trip, Zach actually flew here just to spend my layover with me. We did the famous Gardens by the Bay and Marina Bay Sands. This time, I am ticking off some more famous locations, starting with this spot called Henderson Waves. I had seen some pretty cute pics on Instagram from this spot and it was stunning, but I just couldn't find those angles. I think I need my trusty photographer with me next time. But this spot is actually right in the middle of a huge park, so I'm pretty happy just walking around here and soaking up all these amazing views.
Kissing in the rain that night, oh man, we got so soaked. I can still remember your sweet teeth. Campfires and starry nights and driving up the coast. I don't think I'll ever love again that way. Cheap sushi nights and those Ferris wheels.
So I ended up walking all the way to Universal Studios, and if it wasn't so late, I would have loved to go in. But instead, I found this super cute beach where there were so many people heading over this footbridge to this little island, and I had no idea why until I saw this. How cool is this? I honestly don't know how I didn't see this on Google Maps, because normally I love this kind of stuff, but I'm so glad I stumbled across such a cool landmark.
My heart and soul.
And just like that, I'm ready to fly back to Dubai. At least the timing of this flight is so much better than yesterday's, and I could get a proper night's sleep. Now, I am the galley operator again for this last leg, but I really don't mind. I actually really enjoy the alone time in the galley, and not having to serve or speak to passengers directly sometimes is kinda nice, especially when you're on such long trips like this, because by the last flight, I am so ready to be back in my own bed and cooking whatever whatever food I like. Not to mention, I am really missing Zach. But let's have one last look inside our crew meal cart to see what we're getting for this flight back to Dubai. We have tons of those hot meals just like the passengers, from this vegetarian pasta to beef and then some fish and chicken, alongside the classic poke bowls, though sadly nothing is vegan apart from these, and you know how I feel about them.
Sometimes a memory will take you back in time.
So I've got my trusty yogurt from Oz, and we actually have these little granola sachets in the crew dry stores, so those and some banana and I'm sorted.
Faces would replace you when you go.
Now, after everything is set up, hot food is loaded, and I send the crew out to face the crowds, my job in the galley is to always keep the carts in the cabin stocked up and to actually cook up our crew food. This is so all the crew can eat as soon as the service is done, because you might not realize this, but from the pickup at the hotel to after the first service, you're looking at least 5 hours. That can be really awkward to find time to eat. Now, for lunch today, I have chefed up a crew masterpiece. Well, not really, but I'm just excited about the fact I haven't seen this before. It includes a vegan bolognese and vegetable chili, which will go perfect with these baked potatoes. We're on the home stretch here. The last service is a quick hot snack service, and we do this about an hour and a half before top of descent. One of my duties as galley operator is to seal up all the containers so it's ready for the catering team to take off. I always try to do as many as I can while we're still up in the air so we can get off the aircraft as quick as possible once we land.
No, I'm not sure of what.
Even having to wait for Zach in the Dubai heat can't get me down because I'm just so happy to be back home. And I don't mean just back in Dubai Creek Harbour, but back with Zach. I honestly cannot wait till the only food I'm cooking is for me and him. As always, thank you so much for all the love and support. It means the absolute world to me, and I'll be seeing you again very soon.